Okay, well, welcome everybody. I am so glad you're here. It's a great day outside today, isn't it? Everybody's wearing shorts and your arms don't need jackets. It is a great day. And guess who else it's a great day for?
Bees.
Yes, who said that? Bees. It's a great day for bees. We're going to talk about bees today. And you know what? My dad raised honeybees my whole life, from when I was a little tiny girl. And one day, I went in my mom and dad's bedroom, and you know, in your mom and dad's room, there's kind of weird stuff sitting around. My mom had combs on her dresser and makeup, and it was always fun to see in her makeup. Well, one day there was this little square box. It was about this long and about this tall, and it was buzzing. So of course, what would you do? I picked it up. And I was looking at it, and it kind of had a screen top, not like a box top or something. Kind of a screen top, but I couldn't really see in it, but there was a little cork on the end. So I thought, well, I'll just peek in this cork and see what it is. What do you think it was?
A bee.
It was a bee! But it wasn't just any bee. It was a new queen bee. Because every beehive has one queen bee. And they can't live without their queen bee. And my dad had a beehive and the queen died. So he had to quick order one, and it came in the mail in this little box. And when I opened it, it stung me. And guess what? It really hurt. It made me scream and cry. But guess what it did to the bee? It died. Honeybees don't ever want to sting you. Hi! Honeybees never want to sting you. You don't need to be afraid of them. You just need to hold really still, because if they sting you, they're going to die. So the only reason they're going to sting you is if they think you're going to hurt their queen. So if you're not mean to them, if you're really still and quiet and don't hurt them, they won't hurt you. Honeybees aren't scary at all. But guess what? I have another honeybee story. There were some big bullies who lived in our neighborhood when we were little, and my dad had his beehives right out beside the house, because you know what bees look for? What do?
Look for pollen.
Yeah, they do. And we lived right by an alley with a gravel road. Is there any pollen there? No, they're not going to stay there, are they? They flew out of their beehive and they went right up in the air and they looked around for flowers. So they didn't bother anybody being in their beehive right by the alley. They weren't hurting anybody, and they'd lived there for a long time. But these bullies came over to my little brother, and they said, "Hey kid, take this big stick and beat on that box." Because a beehive, when they're in nature, they look all different shapes. But when someone raises them, they have usually a white box. So these bullies told my little brother to take a stick and beat on the box. What do you think they were thinking?
To sting it.
They thought the bees would sting my little brother, didn't they? But guess what the bees did? My little brother went over and went bam, bam, bam on the box. And he was right beside it, and their front door, they went out like this, and the bullies were standing across the street. So they went right over to the bullies and stung them, because they thought my little brother was going to hurt their queen. They thought they were being attacked. So that was a case where bullies got the bad thing, didn't they?
I was thinking the boys were going to get stung.
Yeah, the bullies got stung because they were trying to play a trick on my nice little brother. That wasn't very nice, was it? But the bad thing was all the bees who stung those bullies died. So then they had to grow more bees in the beehive. So the queen bee is the one who makes all the little baby bees, and so they can have more. And so they didn't make honey right then. They had to hurry up and make new bees to fill up their beehive. Because you know what? The little girl bees, the female bees, or the mom bees, are the ones who, they take their wings and they fan their friends when they're working so hard to make honey. Have you ever heard someone say busy as a bee? That means bees are so busy. They work really, really hard. And in the summer, they get hot. So some of the bees have the job. They all have jobs. Did you know bees have jobs? They do, and some of them, their job is to use their wings and fan their friends who are working. And so some of them fan people, some of them feed the queen because the queen can't go out and get her own food. Some of them feed the little baby ones. They are so busy. So that's why they had to make more bees before they could do anything else. Okay, let's read our bee stories. Here's one about the queen. This is about a bumblebee, not a honeybee. This is the bumblebee queen. And she's not wearing a crown. Do you think bees wear crowns? No. No, you're right, they don't. All right, let's see. And when we get done reading, I can take you over because in our nature center over there, we have something that used to have bees in it. It doesn't now, but you can see it. And guess what the people at the nature center want to do? They want to put a beehive on the roof of this big building, and they want to make a little tunnel over to the window so that we can all watch the bees in the window. Wouldn't that be fun to see a beehive right in the window? So let's see if we can get that built. Okay, here's a bumblebee sitting on a flower. The bumblebee queen begins the spring below the ground and all alone. So bumblebees live underground. Sometimes I've heard of people stepping on a bumblebee nest. Ooh, that's not good. Bumblebees are native to North America, South America, Europe, and Asia, and there are 250 different bumblebee species. She digs out and she flies. She's hungry and she's looking for flowers. She drinks nectar with her long, hairy tongue. Isn't that funny? Her tongue is hairy. Can you imagine having a hairy tongue?
Like a bear tongue?
Yeah, her tongue has a beard. She begins to serve. Isn't that funny? She begins to look behind the barn, beyond the lake. She buzzes around the bushes, between the fields. Bumblebees rarely sting, but they will sting in defense and can sting more than once. So bumblebees can sting you more than one time, but honeybees die if they sting you. So you don't want to make a bumblebee mad, do you? But they don't want to sting you either. None of them want to sting you. She's looking for a place to build her colony. In a puddle? Do bees live in puddles?
No.
No. A bush?
No. I would not like living
An old mouse nest?
No. I would not like to get eaten by a mouse.
This says yes. The old mouse moved away, and it says bumblebee's nest in the ground, or if sheltered in a mossy, grassy place like an old mouse nest or an abandoned birdhouse. Or look, there's an old teapot. They wouldn't mind being inside an old teapot. That's silly. At my house in the barn, they like to find a little hole, and they go in that little hole where they're protected, and they build their little nest inside that. Now she prepares. She visits flowers and drinks nectar and gathers pollen. So bees have really hairy back legs. And when they land on the flower, the pollen from the flower collects on their back legs, and they take it back to the beehive with them. That's part of what they use to make honey. She makes a waxy cup called her honey pot, and in it she stores nectar that she will eat on stormy days when it's not good weather for flying. So the bee's body produces wax that squeezes out, and from that wax she can make her little honey pot. She pulls, what does it say? The bee's body produces wax that squeezes out in little tiles. Wow, so she makes her own roofing tiles. And she pulls off the tiles with her feet and chews them to form her honey pot. She has to work hard to make her little honey pot. She forms some of the pollen into a lump and lays eggs in it and adds a wax covering. See those tiny little white, they're sort of oblong eggs, and then she covers them up with wax to keep them safe. In 5 days, the eggs hatch, and they're lumpy, plump larvae. No buzzing, no flying, just wiggling and eating. So that's what the little tiny eggs hatched into. Really fat, wormy things called larvae. What'd you say?
I said I remember seeing a medical trail thing.
Have you? Okay. Oh my gosh, there they are. The larvae eat pollen. Remember, she made a little hill of pollen, and she laid her eggs in that. So they immediately had food. They grow, wiggling and chewing, and then one spring day, the larva spins a cocoon. What happens then? What happens after something comes out of a cocoon?
It turns into something else.
Yeah, it changes. They have a metamorphosis, it's called. They change.
Like a caterpillar turns into a cocoon and then it turns into a butterfly.
Yeah, and so these larvae can't fly. What do you suppose they're going to grow?
Wings.
Wings, yeah. Larvae spin cocoons 10 to 14 days after they hatch, and the outer layers of silk harden yellow, so the larvae no longer need the wax covering of the pollen clump. Okay, now the queen bee keeps busy collecting nectar, gathering pollen, and she lays more eggs. See, there's her little pollen pile. She's going to put eggs in there. So she's making more and more little bees to make her hive, because she needs a lot of bees to help her, doesn't she? In 10 days, the cocoons ripen and the queen chews them open. Bees emerge, wings fanning. Now the queen has helpers. The new workers gather nectar and pollen, and they feed the larvae. So now she has helpers, and they can make more and more babies, and pretty soon they'll have a big hive of bees. Summer simmers, the colony grows, the queen lays more eggs. None of the other helpers can lay the eggs. She's the only one who can do that. So she has to keep doing that job and that job alone. But the others do everything else then. Some form workers, some form drones. Drones are the boys. And some will become new queens. When workers are females that are smaller than the queen. They do all the hive chores. Drones are stingless. So the boy ones can't sting you. Their only job is to make more babies. So that's what they do. A bumblebee colony can contain 30 to 400 bees. Wow. How big do you think it would take to be 400 bees? I bet it's about this big, don't you think? A lot of bees. Okay, let's see. In fall, the nights get chilly and the flowers shrivel up and the new queens and drones emerge from the hive. Scientists aren't sure what signals an egg to become a queen or a worker. So when the queen lays the egg, nobody knows why it's a queen or why it's a worker. We don't know. Just like when your mommy has a baby, you don't know if it's a boy or a girl. It's a girl. Drones from many colonies zoom across the fields, dabbing drops of bee perfume. New queens follow the perfume highway and find drones to mate with. Oh, look they have little highways that they can smell those. They call them highways, and really it's just a fragrance. Can you imagine instead of a map, if your mom or dad had to stick her nose out the window to find which way to go by smelling? That would be silly. Might get there quicker than the way we sometimes do. That's right. The new queens drink nectar, search for soft earth, and dig down. See, they're going to dig in the ground, and now they're going to wait for spring. But the workers, the drones, and the old queen bee stay above ground and die because it's too cold. So the queen that's buried underneath the ground is the one who starts over next spring and makes a new hive. So that's how bumblebees do it. Old bee, queen bee of the bumbles, won't see next spring come, but her daughters, the new queens, will fly across the fields and build colonies of their own. In northern Canada, the entire bumblebee season is only a few weeks long. Wow, she does all that in a few weeks because spring comes later there and fall gets there earlier. But in the southern United States, colonies may last for many months. Near the equator, bumblebee colonies may live year-round. And that's the bumblebee story. But that's not honeybees. Let's see if we have one about honeybees. Give bees a chance. Now this is honeybees, and I can tell because I see a little honey jar. So let's see what we have about honey. Oh, there's all different kinds of bees here. Sweat bees, wool carder bees, European honeybees, the common bumblebee, that's what we just read about. Well, let's see what this is going to tell. This looks like a silly book. This is my best buddy, Edgar. We love all the same things. They like board games and dinosaurs and strawberries and honey. Who here likes board games? Does anybody like board games? Does anybody like dinosaurs? Kinda, maybe. How about strawberries? Anybody like strawberries? I like strawberries. Anybody like honey? And of course, bees. Except Edgar says, I don't really like bees. He's probably scared of them, don't you think? Sure you do. Didn't I tell you there are about 25,000 different kinds of bees to love? And look at, he's kind of nervous still. He said, well, maybe. He's not sure about that. That's funny. And then I told you about all the 3 types of honeybees. There's queen bees, they're the biggest. Drone bees, that's the male. And workers, that's the female. Get him away from me, he says. He doesn't want to be around the bees. It says, blow gently on the bees to make them scatter. Can you blow on those bees? You want to blow on them? Blow really hard. Blow. Okay, let's see what happens. Phew, thanks. Like I was saying, I don't really like bees. But why? Mostly because of their stingers and attached venom sacs, which are the cause of painful bee stings. That part you told me last week. So last week, Edgar he doesn't look very happy there, does he? He learned about a bee with a stinger, and inside this big back part of the bee, there's a poison sac. So if a bee stings you, when the bee stung me, I picked up my thumb and there was a stinger sticking straight up, and on top of the stinger was a little sac, and that sac was the poison. So I didn't get the bee poison. I had the little poke of the bee sting, but I didn't get the bee poison in me, so it didn't hurt me very much. But that's what hurts when you get a bee sting, and some people swell up if they get a bee sting, but I didn't get that. Okay. But that was just one bee. Couldn't you still give bees a chance? So he got stung by one bee. Let's see. Maybe I just need to remind you of how weird and cool honeybees are. They have 5 eyes, 3 tiny, simple one-lens eyes, and 2 big compound. So right here in front, see that little triangle? She's okay. It's just not bothering me. Right here in front, there are 3 normal eyes. And then look, he has these big compound eyes that can see every which way, because they have to find a lot of flowers, don't they? They have 2 stomachs, a honey stomach for turning nectar into honey, and a bee stomach for digesting, just like you and I have to digest our own food. They have 4 wings that lock together for flying, and then they come apart, and they can just fold them back behind them. And they have 6 legs, complete with a pollen basket on the back of his legs. Part of his leg is a little lumpy place. That is a pollen basket, so that when he goes from flower to flower, he fills up that little pouch, like a kangaroo has a pouch. Bees have a pouch back there, and they fill it up with pollen to take for their beehive to make honey. Maybe you just need some time to get to know bees. How about 1,000,000 years? You know, bees lived with the dinosaurs. Did you know that? Bees are so old, they lived when the dinosaurs lived. Scientists have found bee fossils from 1,000,000 years ago, and even ancient Egyptians kept bees. Have you heard of the pyramids in Egypt? Those people had bees. In fact, honey from bees was found inside the Egyptian tombs. The Egyptian people took with them things that they loved when they were alive, so when they died, they thought they could eat some more of it. And honey was one of the things they wanted to keep. That's kind of silly, isn't it? Okay, perfect. Maybe you just need some honey. Bees make honey. And he says, why are you telling me all this stuff? And his so you'll give bees a chance. Once you learn how great they are, you're bound to fall in love with them. Does he look like he's very happy about that idea? No, he's not, is he? Check out how honey is made. Let's see. A bee gathers nectar from flowers. The nectar goes into the special honey stomach called his crop, so he eats the nectar and it's in his tummy. Then the contents of the crop, he spits it into another bee's mouth. Can you believe that? So they collected the nectar in his tummy, and then he spits it in another bee's mouth. The new bee breaks down the sugars of the nectar within her own tummy. So now it went through another cycle. And the processed nectar is passed along to several more bees. Look, they're spitting the new product into all those bees' mouths. Did you know when you ate honey, it had gone into all those different bees? That's pretty funny. Then the honey gets barfed into the honeycomb cell and fanned by the wings. Remember I told you they take their wings and fan? And it's fanned by the wings of bees to evaporate too much moisture because it's pretty runny at first. And then lastly, it's sealed with beeswax. They put wax over the top.
Do you say barf?
That's right. He's kind of stuck on the barf idea. He doesn't really like that. So can you imagine that the honey you ate went through all those honey's tummies and got spit into another honeybee and then barfed into the little six-sided cell? So when a farmer or a bee farmer wants his bees to make honey for him, he gives them little cases to put the honey in, and it's just scientists figured out exactly what bees like, so they make it just right, and the bees go right ahead and fill it up. So I should have brought you some honey, but we'll have some next time. All right, just 1 pound of honey takes, how many flowers do you think it takes to make 1 pound of honey? 2 million flowers and thousands of bees to make 1 pound of honey. Wow. And he says, that's too many bees. It says, blow gently on the bees to make them go away. Blow on them.
I'm not doing
Everybody blow, 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 blow.
I'm going to stay right here.
Let's see what happened. It looks like I haven't convinced you yet. He's got a lot of honey on his mouth, but he still doesn't love honeybees. Nope, because they're all going to sting me, he said. Do they want to sting him? No. Oh, well, bees do sting sometimes, but not because they're mean. Now we have stinger stories. Let's see what that says. Bees only sting to defend themselves. So the only reason they're going to sting is if they think you're going to hurt them or their queen, or get squished or smashed, like stepping on them by mistake. In fact, many bees lose their stinger after attacking. This picture has Band-Aids on, but I don't think bees have a way to put Band-Aids on, do you? So, wait, what are you wearing? He's wearing bee armor. He thinks the bee won't sting him. That's not going to work. It was designed for dragons. I think it can handle bees. He thinks that's the thing to wear. But here's what a bee farmer wears. He puts on a hat, and then he has a net to cover up his face. And the net comes down around his face, and it has a little cinch, so he can hook it around his collar. And that way, the bees can't sneak in and get in his clothes and sting him. So that's what a bee does. He puts on long sleeves, long pants, tucks his pants in his boots, and here is the little kind of thing that he puts in his beehive so the bees fill it up. Those are the little six-sided cells that they barf into when they make their honey. Okay, it looks quite a bit different. It allows them to collect honey and beeswax without getting stung by the bees. Okay, but giving up bees means giving up so much more than just honey, because bees help everything. Bees go around and pollinate all these different things. So how many people here like grapes? Do you like grapes? They need bees. Did you know that? How about apples? They need bees too. In fact, lots of apple orchards raise honeybees right in by their trees so that the honeybees will help them. How about watermelon? And oranges? Do you like all that? All those things take honey, or take different kinds of bees, and usually honeybees. You see, in order for plants to grow, fruits and vegetables, they need right ingredients. They need sunshine, water, and pollen. So the bees are what help them make new fruits and vegetables. All right, that's where bees fly in. The bee's fuzzy body catches pollen from flowers. The pollen falls into the next flower, and they have helped all the plants pollinate. A single bee can visit over 1,000 flowers in one day. Whoa, 1,000 places? Can you believe that? That means without bees, there'd be a lot less yummy stuff to eat. And bees are disappearing. Now, this book is a little bit old. For a few years, we were worried because the bees were disappearing. Nobody knew what happened, but they were dying. And now they're starting to grow bigger. Lots and lots of people are planting flowers that they like and helping them to grow. And so now they're starting to grow back. And that's a good thing. If more people like you give bees a chance, they might have, well, a chance to make the world a sweeter place. Now, have I told you how much I love bears? You think this guy's going to like bears? If he was afraid of a bee, I think he'd really be afraid of a bear, wouldn't he? Yeah, that's right.
Bears are afraid of a bee.
Yeah, bears.
So I bet he'd like to be a bear because he would be afraid of another bear and bees.
And bees, that's right. What do bears do if they, we know bears eat honey, right? Where do they go? What if they're grabbing a bunch of honey out of a beehive and the bees attack him? Do you know what bears do?
What?
Well, they have a lot of fur, so the bees can't hurt them through their fur. But where does a bear not have fur?
On its face?
Yeah, on his nose. So they have to hide their nose. So they will hide it just by brushing bees off. But sometimes they run and jump in the lake because bees can't swim. So that's what saves them. They do a lot of things, but they still think it's worth it to get their honey because bears love honey. It has a lot of sugar.
They like eating the bees more.
No, they don't like the bees. They like the honey, I think.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't like to eat a bee. If I were even a bird, I wouldn't like to eat a bee.
I think.
It wasn't even chopped up. It would just sting my tongue.
Oh, I think you're right. I don't think they love to eat bees. Okay, so these are the six-sided little cells that they want to put their honey in. And Mr. Tate's class loves taking field trips. Today their bus went to a farm. Hey, you guys came to a farm today too, didn't you? Farmer Ellen led the class through a big field. There weren't any cows or horses or sheep. There were only bees and flowers. Amy picked a flower and twirled it. Ellie looked around and, is this a flower farm? Farmer Ellen smiled. No, but we grow lots of flowers. Why do they grow flowers?
For the bee.
Right. Oh my gosh, look at all those flowers. They walked through a grove of blossoming apple trees. Is this a tree farm? Natalie asked. Trees grow here too, Farmer Ellen said, but at the Busy Bee Farm, we farm bees and honey, not trees. Honey tastes good, said Jake. Ellie held on to Mr. Tate. But bees sting. Only when they're afraid or angry, said Farmer Ellen, and beekeepers always dress safely before visiting the hive. Oh, look, they all got to put on the beekeeper stuff. So let's see. Farmer Ellen took everyone to a small shed and helped them put on all their bee things. The hat, the gloves, the long pants that don't let the bees in, right? And here they go to the bee hives. And each one of these is one set of bees that has their own queen, each box like that. And these children don't want to hurt the bees, they just want to go look at them. So here's the bee farmer, and see what she has right here that sprays out. That's not any bad chemical, that's not anything except a smoky fire. She makes a little fire inside here and blows smoke on the bees. And you know what it does? It makes them kind of sleepy. And then she can go inside the hive and get out the honey. So there went the bees. They're going away from the hive. And they're going to go get all kinds of yummy pollen. And you know what? The honey tastes different if the bee goes to apple blossoms or white clover. That makes yummy, yummy honey. But guess what doesn't make very good honey? Can you think of a yellow flower that grows a lot of times in Iowa?
Dandelions?
Yes! That doesn't make very good honey. Did you pick a dandelion today? Yeah. That's good because we didn't want the bees to make honey out of that one. Here they're making honey out of poppies. Oh, and look, they're giving them all a drink. The bees need also. So look at all the cherry trees. I bet that makes good honey. Well, you know what? We have loved reading all about the bees, but it's almost time. It's past time for us to go for a walk. So shall we go for a walk?
And see if we can see any bees.
And see if we see any bees. I bet we'll see flowers.
I actually went wasp once.
Ooh. So let's be on the lookout for flowers and bees.
There's like